what she did was the most efficient way to play an idol that we've ever seen.
Why is the jury laughing?
0 chance of winning the game.
Supposed to talk glamour to you.
My grandmother's sitting home watching Jerry Springer.
Lee, is there any way I could have your jacket?
Welcome back to Survivor Breakfast. Boys, we're talking about the finale of season 42 here. We've got our new winner. We've got our season 42 winner, Marianne. Congratulations. Unbelievable. Really, really cool episode. We got a 3-hour long episode. A lot of stuff to talk about. Toast, I'm going to throw it to you first. What are your thoughts on this finale here?
A lot of pressure here, right? Tossing it to me. There's so many thoughts. Listen, I like Marianne. I know everyone who's been following this podcast probably thinks I'm pretty disappointed that Mike didn't win. Because I follow the meta. We have a whole section devoted to it.
Listen,
and,
he ended up having 13 more confessionals than the next person. I'm almost certain.
Yeah,
he had 57 confessionals.
Yeah. So I mean, I like Mike, and I thought that the edit was definitely leading us towards that. And when he won Fire, I thought maybe there's still hope, even though it really seemed like it was going the other direction. And then, we all know how it turned out. But honestly,
you're finally in the dupe crew with me.
I'm duped. Yeah, I was duped. I was duped, and it stings a little harder because it's been a long time coming, right? I was on a high, but regardless, I really like Marianne, and I think that she had some great moves down the stretch, and I definitely think that her being the winner does not take anything away from the season and definitely adds some things to the season, which I think, all in all, was a really, really good season. I think it's a top-tier season.
Are we going to say top 10?
I think, it's premature. And
I think you got to give it some space before we can give it a top 10.
Maybe a little bit of recency bias, which might come up again later on in the podcast. But I think it was a really top-tier season. I think every episode was pretty good. Like, there were no dud episodes in my, just thinking back. I think it was a really good season. I think Marianne adds to that, so that's good, Yeah. We'll get into it.
Yeah, Kale, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Marianne, I hopped on her train just last week. I'm not going to lay claim for the entirety of the season, but I hopped on last week because I really, truly believe that last week was the turning point for everything that happened here tonight.
Yeah.
She masterfully won that crowd over, that jury tonight. Her speech and how she chose to, and honestly, I sat back and I saw this towards the end of the deliberations, if we want to use that phrasing. She didn't talk consistently the entire time, like we had seen her do that tribal earlier in the season. She waited, she picked her points, and boom, 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 boom. She was methodical with it.
Yeah.
Marianne led this really joyful, genuine, carefree type of personality for a long time on this season. She talked about this as being a part of her gameplay, and we'll
great energy.
Yes, and we'll nitpick whether it's really true or not. What she claimed tonight is that was a piece of the puzzle for her, because I've always envisioned that being a strong gameplay. If you can prove yourself to just be carefree, so the target's not on you. If the target's not on you, that's great. We've talked about it all season long that you still have to do stuff, and that's where this all gets slightly dicey. But she did land a KO punch last week.
Yeah,
or actually kept him wobbly. KO punch tonight.
Absolutely.
And I do think we got a really great winner tonight, and I'm excited for the return of Marianne, hopefully in seasons to come. But I'll be honest, from the edit standpoint, going into that vote, I thought it was tight. I said massive really blowout. I said massive blowout last week, but
I was watching it with the crew last night, and going into the vote, I said I would not be surprised here if we got a 4-4 vote. Like, I was going into the vote very, very close. But something I wanted to touch on, Kale, that I didn't really think about with what you were just saying was, I actually, I think Marianne won this season as much on her ability to communicate the moves that she's made, as much as those past couple moves that she did make. I think her speech was incredible, and I didn't really put it together at how much of a difference that is from what we've seen from her all season, she has come off as a very bubbly but very rambly kind of person. And I think last night she was unbelievably succinct in saying those points. The two moves that she really communicated was that blindside on Omar, where she used that extra vote. But I think the move that really sealed the deal for her was that hidden immunity idol. Being able to pull that out of her pocket and say, this is 100%. The only advantage that no one has known about in the entire game. And I got somebody to hand me their idol with this in my pocket. I mean, that I think just sealed the deal for her last night.
Listen,
sure.
she had to talk about that because I thought she left a lot of room on the table when she didn't play it. We'll talk.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think Simi is right in that is. I mean, there's other ways to play an idol other than playing an idol, right? So like,
and that's what she did. I'm saying what she did was good because at the time I thought that she made a very piss poor play.
Yes,
I would have made the wrong play there.
What she did was the most efficient way to play an idol that we've ever seen. I think we haven't really seen someone pull out a gadget or a gizmo at the final tribal council like she did. Yeah. She brought that out, and it was like a mythical object that she created, and it was more than just an idol. It was the only secret idol. It was the only secret advantage of the entire game.
That's a massive theme of mine. Some secrecy in this fucking game.
Yeah, but she whipped it out, and she was like, "I had protection all along." And what it did was it actually lended a lot of credibility to the rest of her story. Because Kale, a point that you made a little bit earlier about how is it that being all not lackadaisical, but being like very carefree and whimsical is like a strategy if it actually was the strategy. And then once you pull out that idol, now having that story actually makes it make more sense.
It's not like, I just happen to be that kind of person. It's like, I did this on purpose. But
you also still could be lying about that, but still have a little bit of evidence to be like, here,
right?
This lends credence
of that story.
Correct. Yeah, once the votes are cast, it's done. You could, it's done at that point. If she tricked him, she tricked him. That's part of the game. But yeah, and then no, it's okay. I'll mention it later.
Well, hold on. So hold on. I just want to. We will talk about it, or maybe we'll just talk about it now. But when that tribal happened at 5, and I actually didn't know. Again, this is actually where it's in my belief. Well, I guess it was when the promise was made by Mike. But when this happened, and it aids into the story together, this is where they kind of converge. When he made this promise and he gave it to Marianne, that was Mike's biggest downfall. Was that moment for me? Other than the fact that Final Tribal did not go super well for him. But what I want to say is, this whole theory that Lindsay was a predominantly fantastic player that was going to win at final. Where was your head at with that? Where was your guys' head at with that? I mean, we were shown something from the edit where, again, she did not get it. She was unseen for most of the season until she had 14 confessionals last night, which was by far the most.
I think she would have had a hard time convincing people.
But that's not what it seems to be the case for the jury.
It seemed to be that they were actually very worried about her.
Yes.
In the gameplay. But it's something that I don't know. I don't know. Go ahead, Toast.
Sorry, are you going to make a different point, or you tagging on?
I was going to make a different point, so you can.
Okay, yeah. So with Lindsay, I mean, I guess we just have to trust what the jury is saying about that, but I think that it does inform us about what this jury was looking for. If it is the case that Lindsay was a high priority person on their list to vote for if she did make it there. Lindsay was pretty clean the entire game. She didn't make any enemies.
But I'm gonna be honest with you. That's what played tonight. Cleanliness.
Yeah, for sure. But that's what I'm saying. So so that sort of lends to what they were actually looking for as a group.
Yeah.
Not really making too many enemies, being generally likable, playing a game that was respectable, lying when she needed to because that's the game of Survivor. Never made a claim otherwise, right? Mm-hmm. but it didn't really show in the edit as much. I know there's like a lot of people that thought Lindsay was making it very far and thought that she was a good winner potential, right? But I never really got on board with that because she was just so invisible for a lot of the game, like you were saying. And it's like, I mean, that's edit reading, but at the same time, it's also like if she's not in the mix with what is important in the season, then she's not in the mix, you know?
No, exactly. They wouldn't show Omar as much. He went out before she did, and he was visibly present for a long time.
He just had his
now,
fingers
I wanted to say this on that idol play, and this is just a hypothetical, because my mindset at that point was still that Lindsay was not a real true threat. I didn't think Lindsay was. I didn't think Jonathan was. I said my theory last week is that I really wanted this Mike Marianne final because I thought it would play out in the best fashion, but it looks like maybe a Lindsay Marianne would have been better from how this is going, but. My theory is that I don't know how you guys thought this was going to play because I said this out loud tonight. I wanted Marianne to get Mike's idol and get it played for her. Then, because again, I still think there was a lot of credence in playing an idol and saving somebody and blindsiding another person. That still was going to be a big move. The jury was going to be, everybody was going to be so super shocked. But that only plays if Lindsay really truly wasn't obviously a big threat, which was what we're debating
which we
here.
know. Yeah, which we know is to be true. So you're
hold on.
saying
So what I wanted her to do, and this is the big kicker, I wanted, because I still thought at this point too that Marianne had trouble making it to a final three. I thought someone was going to throw her into the fire.
Yeah.
So I was going to say is she gets that idol played for her. She plays it for Lindsay and goes, Lindsay, I will play this before she plays it for her, I will play this for you if you guarantee me you take me to final three. Now, to me, I think that's a win-win for her because either if she doesn't and she makes it to the fire and then she makes it through the fire, that's a big thing against Lindsay at the final three. And I know this is just a hypothetical, and I apologize, but I'm just saying, what were your thoughts? Is that a crazy ass move to have done?
I think her holding on to the idol ultimately won her that game. But
no,
I agree with you. I don't think
too.
her playing it is a bad, because it's still a good move for her to save the person who was leaving. And then if she ends up in the final three with Lindsay, all she has to say is, I'm the reason she's here right now.
Yes,
that's
how I looked at it at that point in time.
And then I think she can beat Lindsay. I don't think that's a bad move at all. I think this was a good move. I think that, honestly, if you had run this 10 times, that might actually be the higher EV play. Because she got so lucky that Romeo won this challenge. Because otherwise she was in fire. Absolutely. Romeo probably shouldn't even... I mean, I think Romeo should have taken Jonathan.
Before we go down this path, really quick, can I just... Because I like what we're talking about with how fire worked out and all those things, because I know we can go down that tangent now. I just want to say that I don't think it was a plus EV move for her to play the idol. I understand it would be very flashy and very cool, but I actually think that Marianne showed a lot of maturity by not making that move. Because
that's what she talked about.
Exactly. Well, I mean, and we can quote her because I think some of the things she was saying was really, really interesting and definitely wise beyond her years, as much as we've seen from her. You know what I mean? I think that it makes less sense because you're trapped. You're getting sucked into this big moves-itis, right? This like I need to play a big move right now, and it doesn't matter how it affects me later on. It might be worse for me later on, but I want to play do a flashy thing and make a splash. It doesn't actually make sense because all it would do is increase her threat level moving forward, guaranteeing her to go to fire over basically anybody, right?
So and you're saying holding on to the idol
that's a valid point that probably would have guaranteed her fire. That probably would have guaranteed her fire.
Her fire.
I think well,
no, unless I said it how I just said it. That's I was thinking about that. Is that crazy?
She knew
that's not crazy.
She knew that Lindsay was a threat, so it didn't make sense for her to do something to go out of her way to create a scenario where it only looks good. She has to save Lindsay, though. It's a flashy move, but it doesn't actually make sense strategically.
Do you think that she thinks that Mike or Lindsay is a bigger threat in that moment?
Yes. That's the question.
I think she thinks that Lindsay is a bigger threat.
Yes, and that's where this debate rooted in, and that's why it probably makes everything I said a moot point.
Yeah.
I think we as a podcast did not view Lindsay nearly as big as a threat as Mike.
For sure.
I think
mean,
the
she was likable. She had an argument to be made.
She was.
I think the problem with this though is that.
But we just knocked a massively bad move she made the week before.
True.
We just sat back and said she made a horrendous move.
She made a horrendous move, and I saved her. But here's my thing though, Toast. Here is from Marianne's perspective, 99% of the time you're going to fire regardless. She hit the 1%. She hit the 1%.
I don't think that that's necessarily true.
How? How else is she not going to fire?
First of all, the 99%, the 99%.
Mike's setting her to fire.
For the record, she can also win on her own. Like, she can also win on her own.
Yeah, that's true.
Sure.
If Romeo can win on his own, Marianne can win on her own.
I know, but that was such a huge long shot. I mean, she hasn't even come close to winning a challenge thus far. I'm saying statistically, at that point, with the information she has.
She explains it in her final tribal speech, and whether or not that's fully accurate, I don't know. But she said that by blindsiding Omer, she now created a path where she was always going to be in the final three, based on what she knew about the socio-political vibe of the camp.
No, did she mean final three or making it to the next?
I think she meant final three because
there's no way.
There's no way you can guarantee that.
You cannot.
Because there's no way you could. That's why it's a bit of a finicky thing to project to the jury. But it sounded really good, and it was, it had a big oomph to it. But I think that she did have a point in saying that by doing that, she was guaranteeing herself that far because she made a point that maybe Mike wanted to take her to the final three as well. I don't know if that's true, but that's what she said. I don't know. But I really do think that was the best move to make. And I think it was the harder move to make because you have to give up an opportunity to play an idol correctly, which is such a tantalizing thing to do. But it doesn't make sense if that person is going to beat you in the end. And she knew that.
I don't. I don't disagree with you.
You can't say no. You can't say she knew that she would beat her in the end too, unless that's the conclusion we're coming now because the jury's saying it that way.
Listen.
We are, I think, right?
Yeah, but then that's bad job on Survivor because they did not promote Lindsay as being anywhere near close to being that much of a threat.
No, but here's my point,
sorry.
Toast, is that both of these moves, right? One, you hope. One, you're going with Lindsay to the final three, assuming you make it, and one, you're going with Mike to the final three, assuming you make it, right?
Yeah.
Of these two moves.
Mike is safe. Mike, you're saying Mike is safe.
To the final three.
Okay.
To the final three. Either one of these moves, you're hoping the person that you don't do this to is going to the final three with me, right?
Okay.
One, I'm hoping to be in the final three with Lindsay, essentially.
No, but
Mike is safe.
Yeah, wait, what do you mean?
At the final five, Mike is safe because he won immunity.
No. But, look, this is what I'm saying. Okay.
You're saying Jonathan's always making fire if he loses.
I think that if you play the idol and save Lindsay and get rid of Mike.
You can't. That
you
wasn't.
Can't. He's
you can't.
immune.
Mike had Mike and immune.
He's immune.
Jonathan would have went. Jonathan would have went.
Right. I'm being so stupid.
No, it's okay. I mean, there was
Are you duped?
Tribals.
Are you forever duped?
I'm lost.
No, regardless, I think it was a subtle move that she made that was actually in her best interest when on the surface level.
Listen, it clearly was. It clearly was. It clearly was. My whole thing in saying this is that I posed an interesting hypothetical that's never been seen before. I was like, I would get up there and say, Lindsay, you have to take me to the final three or I will not save you right now. She has to say that. Yes, Lindsay can back and turn on that. And then Marianne would be in fire, and that would not be what Marianne wanted. But then if she won fire, and then she went up against Lindsay, my point being would be that
you're just guaranteeing Lindsay loses the game, but that doesn't guarantee you win the game.
Okay,
but I think that sets you up to fire.
No, but you could lose fire.
No,
I understand that piece of it, but that's why I'm saying I still thought there was a good chance she was going to fire, like Sim was saying earlier.
Yeah, I thought so too. I thought so too.
My point too, Toast, is I think that playing the idol for Lindsay actually has a higher odds of getting you into the final three.
But it doesn't give you a higher odds of winning because clearly Lindsay was a threat.
Yeah, no, that's the one problem.
You are ameliorating that threat by saving her.
Yes, also true.
You're cutting that
guess,
threat.
I get.
Right? You're saying
what you're saying does make sense. I get that you are now
because by saving Lindsay,
yeah.
if you think that you're going to fire, say you think it's a 90% chance you're going to fire, whatever it is,
Yeah.
you're either going up against Lindsay, Mike, or Jonathan.
Yeah.
No, if you're saving Lindsay, you're not going
yeah,
against
yeah.
Jonathan's going
Jonathan's
home.
No,
it's
I
Mike
mean,
or Romeo.
in that moment,
Most likely you're going up against Mike because you think then Lindsay's going to win the
but
final
that's what
tribal.
I mean is I'd rather go up against
Immunity.
Mike in fire at the time than Jonathan in fire.
True.
We saw obviously Mike destroy
we know-
Jonathan.
we
did
know
sick,
that-
but with the data we had at the time, Jonathan was a better fire maker,
For sure.
right? So by saving Lindsay, I get out Jonathan, and so I have a better chance of winning fire, which I think is a high likelihood that I'm going to.
This is the only thing that I would say as a counterpoint.
And I've still made a good
because
move.
I like what you said about now you're taking away from Lindsay by saving her,
And you still
just
get to
wait.
make the argument that somebody gave me an idol with an idol in my pocket.
But Lindsay was never. Listen, if it were Omer and you saved Omer, that would be crippling to Omer. I don't think it's as crippling to Lindsay because strategy was never the reason why she was going to win to begin with.
it was going to be social and
If
challenge.
you're gonna out strategize Lindsay by saving her and then bringing her to the end and saying I brought her here, that could play equally to Lindsay's social game, which she was really good at, as it could for your strategic game.
Yeah,
I hope that
I
makes
hear ya.
sense, but
No,
I don't
hear ya.
think it does. I don't think it does as much to Lindsay because nobody was voting for Lindsay based on strategy to begin with.
I think that's a good point. I think that's a really good point. It's not as devastating to her game as I thought it was. 100%.
I think
No, I
it's
think- I
easy
still
for me
think
to
it
say
has a
that
lot
the
of
thing she
validity.
did was right. You know, I think it's easy
no,
for me to say the thing she did was
let's
right.
be clear.
but-
The move she made was great. It was incredible.
Yeah.
I think she probably still had a pretty good chance if she did the other one though, from what we saw.
Yeah. Listen, and I like to pose the hypotheticals because I had my mind twisted in 15
No,
different
that is an
directions all
interesting
throughout the
mechanic
episode.
to try to play.
Yes.
To be like, I'll play this for you if you take me, and then it's in front of
and
everybody too. So
Because
everybody
how
knows.
that would work is that you're guaranteed in, and you just had saved her, right?
Yeah. Because then you can make both arguments to the jury.
Or she looks even worse when she doesn't take you, and then you win fire. But
I really like
the
that.
philosophy there was that if you thought you were going to fire anyways, it gives you ammunition at final tribal.
I actually really like that, Cal, because then it's like if she takes you, now you've got a moot point. I saved her, so she's here, but only to guarantee me in. She still wasn't guaranteed to get in.
Exactly.
Yeah, but
we've both
now-
gained something in our game, but I've gained something more in my game. And if she doesn't take you, then you have that to cut her down. Of like, look what she did.
But then
Yes.
you have to make it there. So you're
But
risking.
the philosophy
Wait, let me
was,
just
Toast,
say-
is that in her head
Yeah.
she was going to fire. So it
This
did
is
not
like-
matter.
But
This is
saving
like-
Lindsay, I think it gives you a better chance of getting to the final three. Like I said,
This
than-
is like the car challenge with Yao Man and Dreams in Fiji. Like Yao Man is like, I'll give you this car, Dreams, if you guarantee to not vote me out at the final four. If you have immunity, you'll give me the necklace at the final four. That exact scenario plays out where Dreams has immunity at the final four, and then he reneges on his deal, keeps the car, votes Yao Man out, and now he's in the final three. He was going to lose anyway, but it only damns him. It doesn't benefit Yao Man.
It does when there's a fire-making element to this, and she has an out either way.
But-
yes,
but-
we
but-
thought that she had a lesser chance in fire.
Then there
We
you
did
go.
think
That's
that.
it. That's the
But
answer.
but we thought that she was guaranteed
fire
to go to fire.
regardless.
So if she thought she was going to go to fire, this gives her an additional out to not go to
I
fire.
don't think you can say, Toast, that by not saving Lindsay, she had less odds to go to fire.
No,
but she
yeah.
had less chance of
Yeah,
winning
yeah.
if she got through fire.
I
No,
don't know
no,
that's
no.
necessarily true. I don't
No.
know that that's necessarily true.
Against
No, yeah.
Lindsay, we've been it was conveyed to
No,
us
what
that
we're
What
saying is that this is
she
where you
can
build the
gain
argument against
ammunition
Lindsay.
But why
Yeah.
would you actively try to build an argument against the person that you think is most likely to win when you could just eliminate that person to begin with? Why would you?
First of all,
want to
there's a whole
structure an
conversation. We're gonna
argument
dive
against
into
them?
the Mike piece of the puzzle here too. They're all claiming that Mike was the front runner going into the night. Now, whether that's true
I just
or
wanna
not,
I just want to make one more point about this. Another thing that lends towards her not saving Lindsay is that in her final tribal speech, she used that decision to describe how she grew as a character over the course of Survivor, which I thought was very interesting. She said,
Yes.
Lindsay was my threat in the game, and
Yes.
I wanted to give myself an out. If I lost because I was sitting next to Lindsay when I knew that Lindsay was a really good player, I would always be able to fall back on the fact that I could have done it, but who knows? If I got there without Lindsay and I lost, I would not know why I lost, and that would eat away at me, and I would think it's on me. I didn't want to give myself that out, so I had to take Lindsay out so I could give myself a chance to win. That played so well to the jury.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
very well for me.
Listen. The move she pulled was brilliant. It all worked out in her favor. But the point that I feel like me and Sim are making as well is that, again, piece of that happened with Romeo randomly winning the
Yes.
immunity challenge, which we did not see.
Yeah,
so
it was
that
wild.
was a factor to
sure.
create the scenario.
For sure.
And there's and then there's a multitude of different factors.
And also Romeo taking her, like,
Yeah,
he
the final
very well could have taken
point.
Jonathan.
Yeah, the final point I just want to say on this Lindsay piece of the puzzle here, and it's going to aid into the rest of the discussion here, because I don't understand where Lindsay's threat level got to where it could be, other than being cleanly,
where did it come
somewhat in the game. She was very good physically, and she had a
Good socially.
She had a decent social, but she didn't do anything, and she
I think
really
she
made a
just-
poor decision the week before.
The only thing I
Yeah,
can
but
think of is she
strategy
just got
wasn't a
along
part
with
of it.
everybody.
But
She
why?
just-
But why?
she
And
didn't
I
have a
guess that we'll
single
talk
people-
about this. But why?
I think
Why?
she
Why?
don't
Why
know.
is
She just didn't have a
strategy
negative
mitigated
relationship
so
with a
much?
single person. I think that's the only thing I can think of, is she just didn't have a negative relationship with anybody. Like,
But when did
Hyde
Survivor
very much
become
was
that?
not
When did
happy with
Survivor
Mike.
become that?
I agree, Kale. I mean, I agree. If that's the case, we're also being shown something that may not have been the case, right?
Yes, and
Lindsay
and
may
that's-
not have been
yes.
as big of a threat as Marianne thought she was, but none of the jury
Or we may have
pushed
been
back.
showing so little that our opinion on it's jaded. So
It could be that too.
True.
But regardless, I think that, I guess, to close out this segment, we know that what Marianne did worked out. There was a little variance, a little RNG in the fact that Romeo won. I think that if Marianne thinks that no matter what she's doing fire, and if she makes a deal with Lindsay to get out of fire potentially, right? And Lindsay now has the option to either agree and honor that or renege on that, it only looks worse on Lindsay. And if Marianne does happen to get through fire, she has an argument against Lindsay, maybe, but it doesn't do anything but hurt Lindsay. It doesn't help her. And I think that we obviously know Monday Morning Quarterback, right, that she did something that ended up winning her the game, right? But I do think that she made the mature decision to understand that Lindsay was a threat against her. Getting out Lindsay is better than playing a flashy move that would just show, a splash to the jury. I think she made the right decision. That's it.
Well, I do actually. I want to say one more thing. I know we keep harping on this, but Toast, what you're saying that it only hurts Lindsay and it doesn't help her.
Yeah.
And I disagree, because the way she did play it, she got to argue that somebody gave me an idol while I had one in my pocket. Right.
And here it is.
You still get to make that argument if you save Lindsay.
Yeah, but then you're going
The argument doesn't
against
change.
Lindsay. But you're going against her then.
Yeah, but you're just
Why
but you're
would we
also
go against
you carried
Lindsay?
her here.
What do you mean? Toast. All I'm saying is, you get to still argue that I had a good enough social game that I got somebody to give me an idol when I had one in my pocket, regardless
Yeah.
of what move you make.
Okay.
And by saving Lindsay and trying to do the deal thing, you then also get to cut her down.
Yeah.
So you get
I
a
don't
positive
think-
and they get a negative.
But I don't think it makes sense if you make this flashy move and the jury at the end
Why
says,
don't you think it makes sense?
if the jury
They'll
then
try to
says,
stir it up.
wait, if the jury says, wow, you made this flashy move to get Mike to save you and then you gave an idol to your biggest threat, how is that a good social move?
What do you mean?
How is that a good social
Because
move?
at that point, Toast, you lie.
We're getting
you,
too
you
fancy
do, You do
here.
what we call as
No,
a
'cause
lie.
I-
You say,
we
I
could
think
be
Mike
getting
is
too-
a bigger
we could
threat
be
than
We're
getting too
Lindsay.
getting
fancy,
too
but-
fancy. I'm
the
sorry. We're
piece of-
getting too
You
fancy.
make the argument that you think Mike is a bigger
Why
threat
would
than
you?
Lindsay.
Why would you actively save the person that you believe, whether it's true or not, to
Can
be
I
your
say this too? Can I
biggest
say
threat?
this too?
don't
And
tell-
I'm gonna
you don't tell
I'm gonna
people that
negate
you
this
think
too.
that
Why
Lindsay's
did
a
she
bigger
want
threat.
Lindsay?
But it could be
Why
true.
did she want Lindsay to win the immunity? Why did she want her to get the advantage?
Because she said I was almost going to play the idol for Lindsay because I wanted to give myself the out. That was what I said.
No. Why did she help Lindsay get the advantage in the
For this
immunity
reason.
challenge?
For this reason. That's what
For what
she's saying.
reason?
She's saying that she wanted to give herself an out. She wanted to take Lindsay, even though she knew Lindsay was her biggest competition. Because if she sat next to Lindsay,
Why
and
would
lost,
that be that
she
wouldn't
would
be her taking?
She wouldn't.
If she won the
wouldn't
immunity.
She wanted to get to the end with Lindsay, and then she changed her mind.
Yes. But where did that happen?
I don't
That's
know.
what's also
that
confusing
doesn't,
too.
That doesn't get shown to us very clearly.
Yeah.
But
Well, I
that is the story that was told
too,
to us.
She's obviously not going to make that argument if she's there with Lindsay. Like she's not still going to say that.
Which also lends to the point that Marianne actually has the most leeway to say anything because she was an enigma to most of the people that were there.
That's something I want to talk about here too. You know, the jury came into this final episode and they even said, you know, Marianne, we haven't really seen a lot of your game. Can you explain it to us? And
yeah, it's a little reminiscent.
And that's I can't tell whether I think I don't like that. I don't like the idea of just being like, hey, we never saw anything of it, so whatever you say, we'll take at face value. That feels like bad to me.
Yeah. I mean, this gets into the crux of it, right?
What you're really describing is that they wanted a reason to not vote Mike. That's what they wanted.
It seemed like they were looking for a reason.
Yes, and unfortunately, I don't want to beat up on him because he had a big win in the immunity challenge. Unfortunately, no answer out of Romeo was going to give them that answer.
No, nothing.
No.
I mean, Jeff gave him a little
Romeo
bit
wasn't winning the game. We knew that.
Yeah.
Which is
Jeff let him save some face by saying that, you know, you actually argued you might have gotten closer to a vote by the end of it than you were, you know, when you walked in, which is fair, but it doesn't matter. 0, you know, plus 0 is 0.
Yeah,
you know?
0 times 100 is still 0.
But I think that what you're describing, Simi, is at the crux of why this new era of Survivor is a little bit different. And I feel like this is like a talking point that we want to really get into, right? That there is something different happening in Survivor.
Yeah.
Whether it be, you know, the way that the cast thinks about the game, or about, you know, maybe it's even that it's shorter in 26 days, or it could be the final tribal format. There's a lot of variables. Even though the final tribal format, you know, started in 34, there's a lot of variables that make this different, where the winner is not necessarily the same type of winner that we've seen in the past.
I mean, we've been talking about this
gameplay alone,
and I've been having this feeling that this new meta is starting to emerge a little bit, where you know,
you and I had an off broadcast.
Yeah, and I talked about it actually
week.
Toast off broadcast as well, where when the game started, right, you could just be a really good player and win the game, and then it became people got a little bit better at identifying good players. So then it was, I still need to make really good moves, but I need to manage my threat either by having really good alliances or, you know, doing other things like that, or shoving off the blame to other people, things like that. And now we're starting to get into this like third wave of Survivor where it's do nothing the whole game and then right at the end make 1 or 2 big moves and you win the game. And I don't know how I feel about that as a meta. I'm not in love with it personally because I want more exciting stuff to happen throughout the season. I want there to be...
You want more exciting things to come from the winner.
Yeah.
Because there was excitement. But,
yes, certainly.
But Marianne wasn't necessarily at the core of that excitement.
Even that, Toast, there was exciting things that happened, but we had a long string of weeks where it was easy vote after easy vote after easy vote.
Well, that's a production too. That's a production standpoint too. That has to do with these stupid ass things, and we'll get into that too. But that's the stupid ass idols. Again, there was only one secret idol. The fact that Marianne was out there and said that there was one secret in this entire game, that's not good Survivor play. Survivor's best moments have come out of multiple secrets flowing all over the place.
Kale, I want to get into that, but I want to stick with this for now, if that's okay. Can we go into what the meta is right now? Because I feel like it's a conversation that needs to be had.
It clearly is what it is for these 2 seasons.
Exactly. That's what I want to say. The way that these 2 seasons mirror one another is striking because it's you know, a person who comes out of the woodworks from an under-the-radar strategic sense, because Marianne was a lot more visible than Erica was, for sure, but not in the sense that we thought that she was going to be in the end.
Mm-hmm. And no, I mean, so 4 weeks ago, you could realistically call her Marianne a goat.
Yeah.
Yes, but we even made
parallels here.
Yeah. It's that. Before you said it, we also made the point that to what you just said. we said if she was a GOAT, but we also said she's gotten a lot of airtime. She's gotten a lot of airtime, but wasn't
that
for
could have been
strategy.
that could have been a fan favorite sort of
Yes.
edit, like we
Yes.
like we went into,
And you said
which
that.
is totally fine. But under the radar as far as strategy and social maneuvering goes, and then comes out at the end of the game with 2, 3, maybe flashy moves, and then is super well articulate and able to explain every aspect of their game flawlessly. And then wins in a 7-1-0 vote. I mean, it's the same outcome.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. It's
a testament to how smart both these women were. They both were incredibly smart.
They knew what was
but-
happening for sure, but it's just the game is different in a way. Not to discredit them at
totally.
all.
No, you're not. You're not.
But that's what it is. It's like there's something that either the jury is looking for different, or the fact that it's 26 days. Maybe they're still not necessarily bitter because they don't like the person, but maybe they're bitter because it's just so recent.
Yeah.
I mean, Hai is sitting there as one of the middling juror members, and he is passionate about this like he left yesterday, because he really only left 4 days ago, potentially.
Yeah, it is
You know?
crazy.
So it's
I
like,
do think that the 26 days, the shorter time frame, could have an effect on this in
I think so,
another
too.
way, where if there was 39 days, Marianne was at the bottom for a long time, for a couple of weeks there. If we had 39 days, like making these moves kind of brought her out from that bottom position, gave her a little bit more power. Like, who knows what could have happened on 39 days? Would she still have had to make these moves at the time that she made them? And then would she have gotten voted out because she had made it too early? Or would she have stayed at the bottom because she didn't make the moves yet because she was waiting for the end, and then gotten voted out because, people were getting towards the end and they were like, well, let's get rid of, we have some other GOAT that we want to take, and we don't need to take this person.
I think that if Marianne did nothing for 34, I'm not saying she did nothing, but just for the
Agreed.
sake of
Agreed.
argument,
Yeah.
I think that if Marianne did nothing for 34 days and then in the last 5 days she did a lot, I think that would look different than if she did nothing for 20 days
Agreed.
and
I think-
did a lot
I
in the
think-
last 6.
I think that's what I'm trying to
or
say.
Last 5, last 6, make it the
Agreed.
same number,
I-
but it's a smaller
I-
portion of the game relative to the whole
Yeah,
game.
it's a high.
You know?
You can make more last minute moves because it is a higher portion of the game. I think that's
Hold
a
on.
great way to phrase it.
I need to make 2 counterpoints. One, you're gonna hate me for this comment, but a lot of what's happening here is a testament to the cast. There's a lot of strong players throughout. I'm being
It
honest.
is a great cast.
No, it's true. It is a great
No,
cast.
I'm being completely
No,
honest.
I totally agree with you.
The fact is there's a lot of good players and there's not a lot of potential GOATs at all. Is that there's gonna be these moves where big people get taken out, and there's gonna be people like someone that on maybe a different season, Marianne may have just dominated. Can be completely honest with you on a season way back in the day. The other thing I want to say, and I want to give Marianne credit here, her moves that we're talking about that got her into this position at the very end were done because she found advantages. She found 2.
Yep.
She found 2 advantages. She wasn't just sitting around doing
You're
jack
right.
shit.
You're right.
She found advantages, which has always been a big piece of this game.
That's why
And-
I said she didn't do nothing, but you understand what I mean when I say that she like Omer was under the radar making votes happen and not being seen for it, right? Marianne was under the radar but not doing the same thing. Right? So there is a difference, and I think we can all agree on that. But I do agree with you that she wasn't doing nothing. She was actively searching for idols. She was making sure that she wasn't going to be eliminated, which is true, because in reality, if it weren't for Omer at the fake merge, then she could have been like Lydia, and Lydia could have been her for all we know. We have no
absolutely.
idea.
Well, I think
So
too, it's something that they talked about, with the jury last night. But Marianne's social game on the first half of this, first 60% of the game was not good.
Yeah.
That's what put her at the bottom, is she didn't have a good social game.
Yeah.
Well, and she claimed that as part strategy, and now that's
Well,
that's
she
what's up
she
for
even
debate.
admitted, like, I didn't realize how bad I was doing socially. I mean, she said that in her speech,
Agreed.
which was a great ownership. I think if she tried to play it off like I was playing a bad, so I would not have played it all.
I don't know if I've already said this. If I did, I'm reiterating it, and it's worth it. I think she had a top 3 Final Tribal performance.
Totally agree.
I think
her
she
speeches
did.
were unbelievable.
There's so many points that make it that way, because if we take the jury at face value when they say that they came in undecided or that they were actually leaning towards Mike, which when Tori raises her hand, I don't believe it. but other people who raised their hands saying that they were leaning towards Mike, she
don't believe
actually
Tori?
swayed all of these jurors to vote for her. She changed votes that could have otherwise gone somewhere else, right?
Well, that's the point I was
That's
saying
huge.
before. Is that was it really true that they came in wanting to vote for Mike, and if he gave them the right answer, they would have, or was it the opposite of what I was saying? Is that they actually wanted a really good reason to not vote for Mike because they didn't really love Mike that much. So
Look,
really-
I still think High was pretty pissed. I don't think High was ever voting for Mike coming into that thing. I think there was some
Never.
animosity.
0%.
I thought
and
Mike
I
did,
said
in Mike's defense, I think Mike did a really good job bringing Roxroy. I don't think Roxroy ended up voting for him, but
Jonathan was his only vote.
yeah, I mean that was a lock. But I thought he did a really good job. I think he just didn't realize how much High was going to be upset with him. I think he thought that Roxroy.
It
was
wasn't
gonna be
just
the only one.
High. I think Omar wasn't down
Omer
for him
and
either.
Drea too. Drea gave him credit and then didn't give him credit when it mattered. You know.
Yeah.
I think that another difference in these more recent seasons, I know it's not just the new era, but it's like the way that Final Tribal is constructed now, where you are sort of like an orator. I think Marianne is a naturally gifted orator. She is telling a story to a group of people, and it's very persuasive, and it's very like, I mean, she's crying at, I'm sure that the emotions were genuine, but she's crying in a way that the jury is reacting to at the right time.
Yeah.
Erica had the same talent. Erica basically said, like, this is what I do for a living. Like, people underestimate
great
me
speaker.
for a living, and that's what she does. But it's different than what it used to be, where one by one people would come up and you would be able to know, like, Roxroy is the person that I need to apologize to. Omer is the guy that I need to say, I got you, individually. But that's a talent that Mike never had and never claimed to have. Mike is not a natural orator, right? And I think it's interesting because, like, Tony is a great example because Tony is the only winner, right, where we see him before this final tribal format change and after, right? His Cagayan final tribal performance is really not great. It's actually poor.
I was
not
worried
good.
for
Yeah,
him.
it wasn't great, but it was a
Not
foregone
good.
conclusion. Yeah.
It was a foregone conclusion. I think Winners at War was also a foregone conclusion, let's be honest, but he did much better in that format.
It was a foregone conclusion, but the way that shook out was also interesting.
I just think that the skills for each one is not necessarily 100%
Definitely.
mapped on.
I totally agree with you. And I personally don't know that I want to see this future where we know who the winner is because we just say, oh, well, they're better at articulating their game than the other person.
Dude,
and I don't necessarily want that to be the case. I want to go in being like, who are the jury really think is the better player and not who's
The
better
game
at
has to
articulating.
speak for itself to a certain extent. The game has to speak
Yes.
for itself. And in this case, I'm sorry to jump in early, but I so passionately agree with you that Marianne...
Bring the passion. Bring the
passion.
passion. Come on.
Marianne was able to articulate a game with the advantage that nobody actually knew whether or not she was
They couldn't
being
verify
honest.
or not.
There was
lot
no
of
way
it.
to do it. And Mike, on the other hand, is actually at a detriment for being overtly strategic.
Yeah.
Mike's game is something that everyone on the jury could pinpoint and say, you did this, this, and this.
I know
And
what you
got
did
him
at
to
every
the
step
end.
of this game.
It got him to the end, and it didn't work out. But Marianne could say anything. And I'm not saying that she did lie, but if she did, kudos to
No.
her. I don't really care. If she did, it's great. But she could say anything, and it was going to convince someone like Hai, who said out loud, I've never worked with you in the game. I don't
Yeah, I
know
have
what
no
your story
idea."
was.
All right,
So-
hold on. So what I'm deducting from your point right there is that you overtly believe that Mike was more strategic than Marianne in this game.
Not
I
necessarily.
didn't say that I think that. I think that Omer, in the middle of the reunion, was like, Mike was obviously strategic, or sorry, more obviously strategic, which is to say that that's not to say that Marianne was not strategic. It was that Mike's strategy was obvious to the people around him, right? Mm-hmm. He now has nowhere to hide. This is his game, and it's on a
Yeah,
silver
he
platter,
can't fudge
and
the
that's
numbers
what
in
it
any
is.
direction.
He can't. Marianne has all of this potential to take it wherever she wants to go with it because her game is an enigma to begin
And
with.
it's not necessarily that she could lie. I think I want to clarify that, like, it's not about lying. It's that she can tell a more cohesive
Cherry pick.
She could tell a more cohesive story because she's in control of telling the story. Where Mike was
it's
not
not as
in
simple.
control of telling his story. The jury was, and they're questioning on the story that they know.
Well, there's a piece
point.
of the reason why Mike doesn't have a lot of commentary there because Mike was working with most of the people on there while Marianne did not really flow in, deciding votes or anything like that. So
Yeah.
Mike was instrumental and something that's getting eliminated here. I do truly believe Mike getting out Drea, you know how big of a Drea fan I am, that was his doing. Was it
Mike getting
ultimately
out
his
high
doing?
too.
What'd you say?
Mike getting
Well,
out high too. Although Omar
That's
kind
the
of
piece is that
puppeted it.
Omar was sprinkling, and Omar also was the reason Drea got out because he shared Drea's secret that Drea shared with him.
Yeah.
So that's my problem with Mike. My problem with Mike is that I do think that he was more instrumental in leading votes than Marianne, which is not necessarily the biggest factor in this game, clearly, as this jury believed. But I'm saying that Mike had the leading of the votes with all of these other people on the jury who believe that they maybe had more of a say and hand in doing all those
And
things.
to vote for Mike would be to relinquish their credit that they are due.
Yeah.
good point.
Well, it's like, I mean, that's the other thing too is
Yes.
that I've talked about with you guys is that a huge advantage that Marianne
It's a great
had over
point.
Mike was that, and it's exactly what you're saying, Kale, is that Marianne's moves are clean cut.
Yeah.
It's Marianne's move.
Yeah.
Mike had 0 moves that were clean cut. They all had some muddiness of other people. Every one of Mike's moves stank of other people. Marianne's only smelled like Marianne.
But the thing
and
is
that's
that could,
huge.
But that can also illustrate a really profound social game too.
But I don't
Depending
think
on how you look at it.
And I think it's
'Cause
clear
if
that
Mike is
Mike
able-
was not able to articulate that properly.
Well,
or
clearly,
even realize
no one's
that
Oh
was
yeah,
what
but
he needed
yes,
to
yes.
articulate.
But what you just posed is that is articulation really that
Matters.
paramount? Yeah.
Yes.
I think it is.
Well,
I think
clearly
that decides a
it did
winner.
here. It did here. Yes.
It did here. It
and
did
I'm
last
worried-
season
And it
too.
did last season as well. Erica blew them out of the water.
And I'm worried. I
Blew them
don't
both out of the water.
necessarily want that to be the future where the better orator wins the game every final.
Okay, and I agree with you. And I actually do think, like I said, I've thought about what Marianne's claimed to be her full strategy throughout the game. I've thought about that as a strategy for myself. Just act dumb as fuck for as long as possible and then do a move. I've thought about that as a strategy for myself. If I could ever get on after my million times of auditioning for the game. But she said that was her gameplay. But even the jury knew that was not
I
her
think-
full gameplay the entire time.
Well, I think
it
too
wasn't.
with Marianne is she wasn't actually acting dumb. I think it was very clear that she's
No,
very intelligent.
I don't mean dumb. I'm sorry. I
No,
didn't mean to
but
describe her as
carefree.
dumb.
I know what you
Carefree.
mean.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see what you're
I'm saying that's what I
No,
wanted to act dumb. For her case, it was
actively
carefree.
not strategic. She's
Yes.
claiming that she was actively putting on a guise that she was not strategic.
Well, she was
Yeah.
kind
she
of
was
doing.
fighting against being perceived.
She was
strategically.
arguing almost that she was doing the Mike White thing.
Yeah.
Where Mike White was like, "I'm just happy to be here. Like I'm a Hollywood producer. Like I don't need it. I'm
That
just
is
happy to
called
be here."
playing dumb, by the way. That is what it is called. That's what,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what
yeah.
that's what she's claiming. So,
Certainly. I just wanted
yeah.
to make it clear that like I think it worked for her because
No, obviously it worked. All
yeah.
of what we're saying here obviously worked.
Yeah, but she won the game.
There's no debate. But what we're saying is that why? What's the root of all of this? I personally, in having this whole conversation, I think it's twofold. And you just made a great point. So I really like the point is that a vote for Mike discredited all the moves that the jury members did and they believed to be paramount in the game in the evolution of this particular
it's
season.
hard for the ego to let go of that. It's hard
Yeah.
for the
Yes,
ego to do that.
and I don't want to call the jury egotistical.
No, that's not-
As
yeah,
that
that's
I
not what
because that also discredits Marianne, and I don't believe that either. I believe Marianne, like I think
She
Marianne
deserves her win.
delivered
I think
a
that's what we're all
fucking
saying.
a massive punch on Omar, and then at the final tribal delayed relayed the KO punch, and that's
Yeah.
where she won the game clearly. But I think you make a valid point. And it goes to that point that like they wanted a reason not to vote Mike.
Yeah.
And I don't, but also I don't know what Mike truly did by himself.
Well, I
like
have
you
to.
said,
I have
Sam.
to ask you guys.
A lot of
is
it's
there,
confusing.
Is there something that Mike could have? What does Mike say
No.
in this
Mike
final
doesn't
that,
win.
that
Mike doesn't
could win
win.
this game?
No.
Is there no?
No.
Is there no chance?
This is
No, I
what
said
Mike
it-
has
I-
to do.
yeah.
He has to lie. And I don't think he was ever going to do that. Because this is the thing. There's a very distinct difference. The jury was posing to him, Mike, own your game. Right? And I want to start out by saying there's a distinct difference between owning your game and lying about what the jury wants to hear. Right? Mm-hmm. The jury wanted Mike to say, I said I was playing with honor and loyalty and integrity, but secretly I was going against all of you and I wanted to win the whole time. That just isn't true. That isn't what Mike did. So what Mike says is, I wanted to play a game with honor and loyalty, and what I'm hearing from you guys is that I may not have been perfect in that endeavor.
Pursuit. Yeah.
And so along the way, I had to make sacrifices because I needed to honor myself and I needed to get farther in the game, which is what this game is all about. But that's honesty. That's him actually owning what he did.
I do
Is that
think he
not?
was telling the truth. I don't think
That's
he was lying
him
about that.
that's him actually doing what they're telling him to do, which is own his game.
Yeah.
He has to, that's
But
his
it's not what
truth
they
that
wanted
he's
to hear,
speaking.
I think is
that's
the
not what they
problem.
wanted to hear. Therefore, he's not going to win because they're not going to get what they want to hear.
What I'm wondering is if he does give them what they want, does he win?
If he lies,
If he lied and said, "Yeah, I said I was an honorable guy to get me farther in the game, but really I was just doing what I want." Assuming
so-
that's what they actually
No,
wanted to hear.
I
Is that
don't know.
when them-
I don't think
so.
so. No, I don't
But
think
you
so.
know what? It's an interesting parallel to like Coach
Deshaun.
when.
No,
Well,
I thought
gonna
it was a little, a
that
little bit
too.
to Deshaun because they both
Well, they
came
both
off
got
of
a one
fire.
vote.
No, not even just that, but they both came off of fire. Both, I think, thoroughly believing they had it in the bag.
They had it
Both
in the
of them.
bag. Yeah.
Both of them thought that.
But I want to say the parallel to Coach is that in South Pacific, Coach is told, like, you got to own your game. Coach did a lot of deceiving, a lot of lying, but he just doesn't admit it. He really, really holds true to the fact that he believes this thing was true,
Well,
he lost
that's
too.
prototypical Coach for you,
For
right?
sure, for sure. But that doesn't deserve a win because it's not actually owning the game. Mike, on the other hand, is actually owning his game. It's just not the game that the jury wants to hear.
Yeah.
That's a different story. And I don't think it makes sense for Mike to lie and say all these things because if Mike said, I did some things, I said I wanted to be honorable, I said I wanted loyalty, it gained me a lot of allies in this game, and I did a few things to show that I was honorable and loyal by giving Marianne the idol once I told her I would do it, just to point to as evidence for
That
me
was his
being
biggest
loyal
downfall right there, though, too.
to then vote people out. If he said that, maybe he would win. Would that be owning your game? No, because
Yeah.
it wasn't what he intended.
Yeah. Well,
So
Kale,
listen,
that's
that's
something-
it's
that's
a
the point. That's the
catch-22.
point. That's the point, though. This jury said they wanted him to own the game. I don't really think they actually cared. I really don't think they cared.
Thank you.
No,
That
they
is
didn't
what I'm
care.
trying to say.
Yeah, that's what Toast
they
is
don't
saying.
want him
They
to
didn't
own the
care.
game. If you own the game, you lose in this
but
game.
went
Here's-
in looking for a
here's my
specific answer from
counterpoint.
him.
Here's my counterpoint to all of that. I don't necessarily. And I know that you were reading the edit, and clearly he had a great edit. I don't think he really necessarily did a lot for weeks anyways. I had said that the entirety of the time that I did not think Mike was doing much at all. I didn't think he was leading anything. So really, when you really focus in on their two strategic elements, yes, Marianne did not do a lot for weeks either. Did her big moves at the end that we said in your guys' eyes right now is that you're questioning if that was or was not enough. It may have just been enough. I don't know.
It might just be.
I don't know.
Well, I think ultimately, I think it's clear that like, it doesn't matter how much it is, as long as it's more than the other person,
but
regardless of the
that's-
category.
Yes.
Right?
But that's not
Yes.
necessarily the case, though, because right now what's being incentivized is keep yourself. Don't entangle yourself.
Yeah, but
in
that
as
could
many
be a
people as
strategy too,
possible.
though. But that could be a strategy, too.
But
is don't have
I
enough
get,
alliances,
I
I
get
guess.
that, but yeah, but Erica, like, it's so parallel because Ricard was like, Erica, like a lot of these people don't know your game. Say it out loud to them. Prove to them that you were doing stuff. It's the same thing here, right? There are people that never worked with Marianne on a single vote and voted for Marianne, right? Hai says out loud, like, I wanted to hear you come to the table and say something. I don't know anything about your game. We didn't work together. But why is it incentivizing poor social strategy in that sense? Because
but is it poor social strategy, or is it?
It might be a strategy. That's what we're saying.
Yeah, fine. If it develops into the meta, then it then becomes embedded in strategy. But all evidence points to the fact that if you stay on the bottom and you don't make moves for yourself, that historically that you not having those relationships with the jury, even in a way that is antagonistic, is not beneficial to you. That's what his history shows. The people that know the people on the jury and can be like, we bonded in the real world, we would be friends, but you were a threat to me. I had to get you out. Those are the people that end up winning the game. Not the case these past 2 seasons. Yeah, not the case.
It's interesting. Well, I think too, Mike didn't do himself any favors in that regard. Like he didn't, he didn't try to like at least from what we saw, he seemed to have good relationships with a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
We think he did burn some, but he didn't try to play on those at all. It felt like in his plea to the jury, I would have loved to see more. And
Marianne did a lot.
Exactly, and I think that was a great thing that she did. And I think Mike, a lot of what he should have been arguing there was his social game, right? And he started to do it. He was like, I talked to new people that I've never talked to in my life. You guys introduced me to new cultures, and he started to do that. But I wish that he pushed that a little bit more, because I think that was one of his better things to make this vote a little bit closer.
I think the root of a lot of this has to do, because I think what we're saying. At one point, I think Toshi had mentioned that you may have just wanted more from the winner all throughout. And again, I think it can be argued that what she did all throughout was strategy.
Yeah.
Now, whether you like that or not, fine. Whether that's even true or not, fine.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree that she kicked ass at final tribal and wiped the floor. And there is parallels to last season. I think all these facts are true.
For sure.
I think a lot of the reasoning and why I left last season even more so than this season. I really liked Marianne's win last season. I really think they did a piss poor job showing Erica last season. I wish we just saw a lot more of her. But again, a lot of this has to root in the fact that I am a big stickler for secrets being in this game. I've said this a billion fucking times in this game, and it's been eliminated. Secrets have been eliminated. All info is out too much. And really, actually, the root of this is that you were saying that Marianne crafted her own story because, yes, she maybe was truly the only true
secret keeper.
Secret. I don't know if that. Well, I don't know if that even makes. I don't even know if that even makes sense.
I get what you're saying. There's
I want secrets back in the game. I want secrets back in the game.
Let's talk about it. I mean,
that's a good point.
Last season and this season, there was a lot of new advantages introduced. We had knowledge is power. We had ship wheel islands. We had beware advantages and things like that. I think us as a group, at least, it seems like we're not interested in a lot of those advantages coming back. I mean, me personally, I think the only thing that I'd be excited to see come back is knowledge is power without a phrase beware advantage, and the beware advantage sticking your hand down a pipe. I like both of those. Other than that, I'm cool with them cutting everything else out.
Yeah, he started to talk about do or die coming back last night, and
he said last night do or die is one of his favorite advantages.
Jeff, you may have lost the best episode of the season if not for that fucking stupid ass do or die.
Yeah, you know what else though is that Jeff hasn't really had time, like he said, to reflect on what happened because he hasn't seen 41 either. No,
I understand that, but does he not like Lindsay goes home? None of what just happened there.
None of what just happened.
Come on, he has to know that was epic.
I know. I guess so, but you also do have the added advantage of knowing all of the intricacies that were happening on the beach before that do or die challenge happened.
You're right. Jeff didn't know that stuff. So, we can't place too much on Jeff saying that.
But regardless, there's some problems with the game mechanics. I know we want to talk about that in a future episode, right? Talk about all different advantages. Maybe that's something that you guys are interested in doing. But
get ready for a dicey off season. I'm ready for it. Ready for it.
But I still want to stay within the realm of what we're doing right now, if that's okay with you guys. Like, what is the new meta? What are you What is so different about these two seasons? That's what I want to know.
I honestly think it boils down to
I
what we
think
said
to
earlier.
me, it's the cast and the structure is why this.
I
went
think
this way.
length. I think length is the biggest factor.
Length is huge
And
because they did
I don't know if
map-
I necessarily believe that, but I get what you're saying.
There was the same thing last season where the pre-merge was pretty cool, and then like easy votes were taken out. Tiffany, Evie, because they went in on and they were on the bottom. Nasir, and then all of a sudden in the middle game now it's like a shark frenzy, and Shan goes out and Danny goes out and Liana goes out, all these big players, and then it's like the dust settles, and then there you have Erica right there able to plead her case to the whole jury, half of whom had never interacted with her on a strategic level.
Yeah.
And then we have the same exact thing happen this season. The same thing happened.
Well, it feels like
what is it?
It's like we used to have a game where you'd have to be the lion. You'd have to sneakily sneak through the grasses and find your right prey. And now we're in a game where you have to be a jackal. Wait for the lions to all eat each other and then come in for the carcass afterwards.
It's like everyone is like raring to make that big move, and then the first person who does it is the first person targeted, and then the next person who targeted them is now the next person targeted.
That's a testament to people recognizing those big moves from the jump, and that means
people have
a lot of the time in the past there's not enough people to all recognize. What you're basically saying from your lions example is that there are like all lions out there.
Can we stick with hyenas instead of jackals just to pay homage to Tony? It's lions and hyenas.
Sorry.
But keep going. No worries. Go, Kale.
No, I think it's a combination of all the above: cast, structure,
Timing.
and length.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look,
it has to be. The environment is shaping the way that people play.
Well, I
it's,
think
it's,
too,
it's survival of the fittest, like
I think
Omer
you
said.
I think you can't get rid of the fact that players get better and better and better at identifying other good players. Basically everybody who goes on Survivor is a super fan. At this point, they almost never get people that are like.
Well, that's not how it used to be.
No, I know, but that's what I mean. Is do you think there's anybody who was on the season who has seen less than 10 seasons of Survivor?
But they haven't seen the most pivotal, like the most important one, which is the one that happened right before it. Because I'm saying if you put enough selection pressure, which is all of these advantages, the 26 days, everything that's different, it's going to create a similar story more often than not. It's like it's convergent evolution. It's like if you put stressors that are the same on a system, the same outcome is going to happen more likely, right?
Well,
I'm just saying the same thing twice.
I have to ask you
Sorry.
then, Toast, because if season 43 was exactly like season 41 and 42, set up exactly like them, I don't think it plays out exactly like. I don't think you get as many parallels in 41 and 42 in 43.
Why?
because people will have seen.
I've seen
seasons.
it. Sure,
that's what I mean.
But that's fine. That might be right. You might be right. But the case that Jeff was trying to make in the beginning, that they don't know what's going on and we're going to change a little bit of the variables, it wasn't changed enough because the outcome, not just the outcome. I don't want to be results oriented. The whole structure of these two seasons went pretty much the same way. The cast is the defining difference, I think, Kale, is that there was so much more interesting and entertaining things that happened this season than there were last season. Mm-hmm. A lot of time was not spent describing what these advantages were. We sort of had an understanding of what they were, which lended to more time being spent with the castaways and with social maneuvering and with strategy. I don't know. I mean, I'm not upset about it. I think Marianne, one thing that she did very well is time her strategic moves perfectly. Her biggest move, I think, came at the final tribal council. Her biggest move in the game was to pull that out and say, look at this. And everyone was like, wow, that's it. You know? Yeah. She timed it well. She increased just to
Listen, but I feel like you're feeling, or we all as a collective are feeling a little bit of loss from the fact that there was a big piece of this game where she didn't demonstrate a lot of strategy, at least out there. And again, I think there's credence to acting carefree as that being a strategy. I do believe that.
But I don't know that was purposeful.
Is that entertaining? And is that in the pantheon of all-time winners that have done crazy big moves. Is that as much fun?
If
I don't know.
we got a confessional from her in episode 3 saying this is what I plan on doing, and then
Yes.
she actually executes it.
Well, that's almost
different.
that's
Because then
almost
you get to watch it with the eye of look at this person.
But actually,
that's
that's why I don't truly believe that was fully. her
No, I
plan.
don't think it. I don't think it was.
I think so
purposeful.
too. But
I think
she
it was
has
just
the
way she
added
is.
benefit. She has the benefit of being able to say anything in that moment.
Understood, but I also think the reason she can do that is because Mike didn't really play that amazing of a game. I think he played well, but he did not play that great. He didn't do too much.
The finale was great for Mike. I mean, he won an immunity challenge, and it goes exactly against, by the way, what he said in his opening thing, that in his opening line, they maroon onto the beach. He says the person that plays the most well-rounded game will win the game. I think that from the 3 pillars of the game, social, strategic, physical, Mike played the most well-rounded game of the people that were up for winning the game. He won an immunity, he won fire, he built the shelter, he was social with everybody, and he was strategic too.
Yeah, I guess the problem is, like, I actually don't know that I believe that the most well-rounded player
Which
will
is
win
fair.
the game, because
sure.
those 3 pillars that we talk about, is like, the social, the strategic, and the physical. They aren't weighted equally. I mean, we said it ourselves last week. If you win every single challenge that you're ever in the whole game, and you're the best challenge person in the whole world, you still might have a tough argument to make. Like challenge wins are not necessarily a primary resume item, like we said last week.
Yeah.
So
That's a good point.
It's not actually the most well-rounded person if those pillars aren't being weighted equally, which I don't
Yeah,
think they ever
specifically
are.
if you're going to argue, then the person you're going up is doing and excelling in the highly
All of
weighted
them.
category.
Yeah, but it has to be all of them, right? Like that's what he meant by well-rounded. Like you can't be a one-trick pony.
But let's be clear. I don't think Marianne.
I don't think she was either.
She had nothing in the
one-trick
physical
pony.
in
Yeah.
the physical category.
Well,
her biggest category was strategic.
where I'll throw a caveat is that she did, if you want to label finding advantages as a physical piece of this game.
Sure. I might argue that
I don't
that's
know if
strategic.
it falls in there, but yeah.
Yeah, but I think it depends on
her
the person.
argument about her final tribal was enough to give her the win. By the way, I think that if you have
that's
that final
because
tribal,
I think she gave one of the
that's
best
because
final
Mike
tribal
wasn't- Mike-
speeches of all time. Like that was
that's what I said.
it was unbelievable.
Top 3, it did so well to persuade people who might have voted otherwise, but it also just hit all the points. Like she was able to, like, without having the structure be one person coming up and asking you questions from the jury at a time, she was able to say, I made Omer the prayer mat. Like she was able to talk to people individually in a way that Mike couldn't do. We saw Mike be very, very adept at talking to people one-on-one. We did. I think that if the final tribal format were a little bit different, where one person were coming up to Mike at a time talking, it might actually play out a little differently. I don't know what you guys think, but every time we saw Mike interacting, it was a one-on-one thing. And the jury said that they actually didn't like that about him, that he would take everyone and talk, and he would be mad if you took any individual and talk.
Yeah, and he made a lot of
But
promises to
I
people,
don't know.
conflicting promises to people.
That too.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's hard to say because like I said, going into the final vote, I thought it was going to be way closer than a 7-1. I really did.
I thought it was too. I did think that it did not trend well for Mike at the jump when they came down his throat. But then they did.
Yeah, they were getting a little aggressive.
They came at Marianne too. They said,
"Bless
Sorry.
you."
Bless you.
God, so disrespectful.
Sorry about that. They came at Marianne and said her social game in the beginning really put her is the reason why she was at the bottom. And
Absolutely.
then again, she wanted to claim that as strategy. I don't
think
that was 100% strategy.
I don't think she actually claimed that as strategy though, because she said herself.
No, yeah,
she
she
said I didn't
admitted
realize
it
how
was
bad my
sloppy.
social game was.
And
No,
I
they
played
both did that. They
emotionally.
both had. There was a parallel there where they both admitted to faults.
To
they
owning.
both had faults.
I agree.
Yes.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
Another parallel too, just to throw out there while we're on the conversation, is that between Erica and Marianne is they were on the
Line 'em
same
up.
sort of
Line 'em
starting.
up.
They were on the same sort of starting tribe where Taku only had to go to tribal once.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
Lulu
you're
only
right.
went to
Wow, I
tribal
didn't even
once
think about
too. Marianne was up for getting voted out at the first tribal that they went to, but it was Mariah instead. You remember Mariah? It was Mariah instead.
Forgot about her until right now.
But but I'm saying like there's also this added element.
You guys remember Jenny? I saw Jenny on Twitter today. I was like,
yeah, I do.
I think she
she's
would've
on
been
this
decent.
season. She's on this season. I think that the beginning stages of the game matter a lot. I mean, they always have, but if you can preserve that tribe early on, you just really increase your chances in the end.
Oh,
I mean,
well,
that might just
we've
be
always
dumb
done that.
for
If
me
you're
to
in
say.
the majority, you
Well, that's
you're gonna
that's
make it
when, but that only plays when those initial tribes stay that way for the entire
and that's
pretty much,
absolutely
which-
dummy too. Like just
Yeah.
No, but there's no tribe swapped, which there had been for seasons on
True.
seasons on seasons.
True. Very true.
But I'll say this.
Lay it down
At
for
the
us,
end
Kale.
of at the end of the day, the last person to align with Mike and get his idol, which was Marianne, that was the last
I
person to
swear to
align.
God.
She won the game. She won the game.
Kale,
She
I
won
don't
the game.
even
The
want to acknowledge
last,
this. I don't
the
even want
last
to acknowledge
defining
this.
moment. Are you
Last
guys kidding me?
The last person to align with Mike was Jonathan, who got beaten by Mike and Fire.
No.
Why am I even answering
no.
this?
Yeah,
Why am I
yeah, I
acknowledging
think
this?
Toast is right.
Why am I answering this?
No, we can't even acknowledge this, Kale. I will give you no credit.
Hey,
No credit
Mike
for
did not
your-
win
for
in
your
the
Mikey
end.
call.
Mike did not win in the end.
He didn't. And I have to say, I know
So the
I
smallest
started off
part
by
of your
talking.
prediction.
Yeah, I know I started talking about this earlier on, but I do think that Marianne is a good winner. I think that her final tribal performance was iconic, and I think that her showing that idol the way that she did added a new element to the game that we hadn't seen before.
Yes.
Where she can, it's emergent behavior, right? Like it's like being able to show like I had this the whole time and I'm still sitting here. I didn't need to play it.
I did a move without doing a move.
Exactly.
Well, I think too that
Which is
pulling out.
huge.
I think it. Well,
Yeah.
here's a question for you, Toast. If
Really
she had pulled
cool,
out that
really
idol,
interesting.
if she had pulled out that idol, and Mike hadn't given her an idol, I don't think it would have been nearly as powerful of a statement.
For sure.
I
That's
think.
fine.
I think
but
pulling out
but
something and saying I hit it and I didn't have to play it is.
It was a
is-
two-parter. It was a two-parter
No, I
move.
think you need that second part to
two
really
for-
make the
a two
the
for
first
one.
part really matter.
That's fine. Yeah, because
Yeah.
you can if you whip it out and you say like, "Oh, like I had this the whole time," everyone could just be like, "Yeah, because you weren't a target. You didn't need it."
Exactly.
You know?
That's what I'm saying. It's like
Well,
whatever.
that
but no,
was a
but
Xander.
I
That was a
absolutely
Xander.
agree with you,
Exactly.
Toast. I mean, she absolutely deserved this win.
Yeah.
For everything we've talked about, I think we all
I'm
agree
more
on that.
satisfied with a Marianne win than with an Erica win. I
Agreed.
got to say that
I
out loud
agree.
to you guys.
But I say that's Survivor's fault. Sorry. I say that's Survivor's
Marianne had a
fault.
great edit
Erica?
too, but not
No.
a winner's
That
edit.
no.
like
Erica
a-
had a piss poor edit. That's what
Yeah, I mean,
that's
they
Survivor's
they
fault.
absolutely should have given her a better edit. I mean, maybe they
Yes.
just didn't have anything. I mean, like
Yes.
there are people who just don't give a lot of material. I
But
guess.
apparently
Listen, for
that's
this
a
to
good
become
thing
for
now.
this to become a meta strategy, it could be, and it would be a lot more fun if what you said earlier just before Sim, if if she comes out, if she or he comes out at the beginning of the season and says, "I'm gonna do this from day
Yeah,
one,"
that would
and
be
let
sick.
it play out, that would be
That would be sick.
a lot of fun.
That would be really cool.
Yeah.
But I like if this is going to become the
Was gonna
the
be
meta,
my
I want it
strategy
to
if
be-
I went on.
I want it to be purposeful. Well, Kale, don't get your give yourself some hope. Maybe one day, and then it'll just be
One day.
me and Toast on the podcast. We'll exclude you for that season.
Would you root for me?
Would I root for you?
Yeah.
I don't root for you now. Why would I root for you then?
I would align with Mike and I would win, baby.
God, I actually, you know what? I'm gonna say I would actually actively root against you because you winning the game of Survivor, you would be. I'd be unable to speak to you. The amount of hubris and ego.
I know.
If
I
Kale won the
actually
game,
cherish
I
our
couldn't-
friendship. I cherish our friendship enough to maintain
That you
it
root
the way it
against
is.
me in
Yeah,
Survivor.
because if you won Survivor, I don't think
We
we could
wouldn't
be
be
friends with you anymore. We wouldn't be able to have a real
Come
conversation
on.
with you.
Come on.
It would be horrendous. Because every time we would get in an argument about Survivor, you'd be like, well, I won
Well,
Survivor,
yeah.
so I would know. Even you getting on Survivor, I think that would happen. I don't want you to get on. I'm gonna email
No,
the
come
producers
on. It's
and
my
make
I want him to
dream.
get
It's
on.
my
that
dream.
you don't get on.
I want him to get on.
It
That
would be fun.
sick.
It would be fun to watch Kale because Kale thinks he'd play a low key game and then he'd get on the beach and start screaming at people. He'd get
I
in
would
one
not.
argument and he'd start yelling.
Have some faith.
You're an
Have some
instigator.
faith.
You're an instigator.
No, have some faith. Have some faith. Listen, I can't wait for a beautiful offseason with you guys here.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm really excited.
I really can't wait.
We're going to talk about some cool topics. Before we hop off here, I just want to say, like, what are you guys looking for in next season? What are you hoping for, and what are you excited about? What are you worried about in the future going forward with Survivor here?
Real simple for me.
Trust the cast.
No, I have some faith in the casting team right now,
I
so
do
I'm not
too.
worried about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know. That's what I
Have some
think.
good faith.
I was
But-
saying that half jokingly, but keep going. I'll get to it.
They need to get secrets back involved in the game. I've said it a billion times, and I'll say it a billion times more. Secrets need to be a part of the game. The fact that Marianne can parade around the only one secret in the game
And win.
and win because of that, again, that's very smart of her to do. But it's ridiculous that there's one secret in the entirety of the game. That's not what this game is built on. So
Yeah.
that's my one thing for me.
Yeah.
I really liked your point, Kayla. I didn't say it out loud, but I really liked your point where you said that Marianne being able to preserve that secret idol lends towards her ability to keep her strategy secret and then identify it at the end to everybody that's watching. I think that that's really cool. I like that parallel there. And I think it also juxtaposes Mike, who was very overt with everything he did. And, we know secrets are good based on what you're saying, right? And he lost because of it, right? There is something cool and there's something poetic to that, right? There's something there. I agree with you saying that they need to get secrets back. I think that the over the top advantages, they can be good until they interfere with actual social interaction and gameplay. I think that there's cool things that can be done and worked out, but I need production to trust their cast. The people who are out there
trust
are
the
out
fabric
there.
of the game.
Yeah, fabric of the game, but also trust the cast because you picked them for a reason. They're gonna interplay. They're gonna be. The dynamics are what we watch for. That's what I watch for. I want to see how people manipulate one another and how they make people make poor decisions to benefit themselves. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that the production needs to trust their cast and not go out of their way throwing advantages in to actually hinder their cast. That's what I would say moving forward.
Well, the do or
absolutely.
die is a
And-
perfect example of that.
Perfect
And
example.
I totally agree with everything you guys are saying. The one thing I will say, basically to say, I totally agree that the mechanics here need a lot of reworking with these advantages and things like that. The one thing I do like, I think they need to find better ways to do it, is the idea of risk to get reward. I like the idea of having to stick your hand down a tube of paint to get, immunity. The things that we like. I think there are right ways to do it, and I think there are wrong ways to do it that we're seeing play out in these last two seasons. So I hope that they can continue this trend of risk reward, but I hope that they've learned from some of the stuff that they're hearing from people.
Yeah, the best way that that's going to be, the best way that's going to happen is a risk reward, and then we see someone risk and truly to their detriment, not by a fucking do or die, which you don't get voted out of the game, but someone sticks their hand in the paint, they come back to go, what the fuck is that, and really puts it on blast, and then they go home that
We
week,
got a
and then
taste of
people
that.
think twice about the risk.
We
next
got a
time.
taste
We got a
Tori's
taste
comment.
of that. Oh, no, I don't think that was the taste because that was like a throwaway thing. I think the taste was Chanel risking her vote and losing it, and then we got
Yes,
that
yes,
magnificent
yes.
almost
That was a
rocks
good example.
challenge.
Yes.
That was a good example.
Tribal.
Yeah.
The other thing that I want to say is
Good job.
I pray, and I haven't really looked at any of the info online on what they're planning on doing, but I want them to go back to 39 days.
Yeah,
I do.
that would be sick.
I want
They're
the longer
not.
game
They're
back.
not.
And the other
I don't
thing
think they
too,
are.
I know it's upsetting. And the other thing that I want them to go back for, and I don't think they will, that I was talking about with who we were watching with last night, is live finales. Yeah, I want to see the reunion. I want to give people some space before talking about the game. They literally finish the game and then they go, "Well, what do you guys think about it?" Like, give them some time to ruminate. And
Yeah, take a
I like
breath.
the
I
idea
also-
of
I
revealing that
also-
winner. Months later.
Yeah, that also, I agree with that too, because that also can play into how people vote too, because they have to immediately answer that to these people.
Yeah, totally.
So,
But yeah, no, I'm excited to see what happens. I'm excited to do this off season with you boys. We're going to be talking about a lot of really cool topics. The other thing that I have to mention before we get off is this finale episode is actually dedicated to our buddy Jared. I meant to
Yes. Oh
mention
my
this
God,
at the
thank you.
beginning. We watched the finale last night. He sat at Outback. He got us Outback to eat while we watched the finale. He sat at Outback for 45 minutes and missed
he's
the
gonna love
first
this.
30 minutes of the episode. He had to watch it on his phone. So we got to dedicate this episode to him. Not only that, but he bought everybody coconuts.
I didn't get any Outback.
Well,
I
Kale,
didn't get any Outback.
you live a few miles from us, so we don't quite get to
Send
watch
me
it
some
yet.
Outback, Jared.
Yeah,
buddy,
we'll
old
let him
pal.
know. But this final episode is dedicated to Jared. I hope he makes it this far in the episode to hear that dedication. I meant to put
we'll
it at the
find
beginning,
out,
but
right?
oh, certainly. Well, this will be a good test. See if our friends
Yeah.
actually listen to us
or,
ramble
or if they
for
just get us out back.
an hour.
We don't know.
If they just buy us Outback. But other than that, boys, it's been a great episode. If you guys are listening on Apple Podcasts, please give us a rate and review on iTunes. Really helps out the show. If you're on YouTube, please like, subscribe, give us a comment, get down in the comics. Let us know what you guys think. About Marianne's gameplay here, on Mike's gameplay, anything on this final episode. Really excited to hear from you guys. And other than that, I'm loving the cast. And I'll see you boys in
Smash
next week or a few
that
weeks.
like.
Yeah, there we
Can't
go.
wait to
Sorry,
see.
Kale, I
Can't
always
wait to see
forget.
everybody in the off season.
Yeah,
Can't wait to
absolutely.
see everybody.
Yeah. Peace.